Hey everybody, it's Amanda, and it's time for our evening Bible study. I am myself tonight. Again, we waited just a little long, and Rick fell asleep. And I just don't have the heart to wake him, guys. I just don't. He gets up so early right now, and I just feel like I gotta take care of him. It's my job as the wife, So I'm just going to hold down the fort. Like, I always tease them that we're like Frodo and Samwise on Lord of the Rings. And I'm just Samwise, and I'm just carrying the ring for him. He's really the ring bearer, but I'm just going to carry it while he's recovering. And then he'll come back and do it when he can. So, hello. Thank you for visiting. I'm going to share the links real fast and we'll get started. And this is a really interesting one for me to do by myself because it involves circumcision, which as a lady, I just, can't really say that I know that much about personally, but in fairness, I think most men don't really know themselves either because it, happens when they're so young, so they don't really think about it. Recovering, like, he's just tired. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just like sleeping. He's just exhausted. You know how he does. So anyway, it's a fun topic, but not something I feel particularly schooled in, but biblically speaking, I think we can certainly talk about it. And I definitely think relevant. Oh, I didn't even think about that. No, he's totally fine. That man, I tell you what, the Lord has given him an excellent constitution. That, and I think that he worked for Walmart so many years. I think that he has, including last year in 2020, I think he's been around every single germ that there is that exists. So he just doesn't get sick. That, and maybe it's 20 years of working with pesticides. I don't know. Could be a number of things, but yeah, no. He rarely gets really sick. So I'm hoping that the Lord's going to keep it away from him this time as well. So I'm just going to finish sharing these links just 1 second, and we'll get started. But he is Walmart immunity. Yeah, there's a Walmart immunity. I really think there is. It's like teachers that work in kindergarten. They pick up everything. Alrighty. I think I got everything, and we are on Joshua chapter 5. You guys, okay, so in Joshua, the Lord has been doing a great work. We started in chapter 1 where he gave Joshua this, instructions with a really great pep talk, and he got him ready. And then we moved into chapter 2 where we were getting ready for that first battle, right? As soon as the Lord gave Joshua that pep talk in chapter 1, he got his people ready. And then he sent the spies out. And then when the spies went out, they met Rahab, who is so significant as a woman in the Bible. I mean, just amazing that she's in the Hall of Fame of Faith and she's in the line of Christ. She was a harlot. Like, her faith was that significant. So, I mean, it was a major deal. So then we get to chapter 3 where they cross the Jordan on dry land, and the Lord showed his, glory. He also showed that Joshua was his chosen leader and the people followed him. Yesterday we talked about in chapter 4 how they set up stones as a memorial, and it was just a reminder, something that they were going to be able to tell their children, right? I love that she is too. And so everybody would come to know the Lord because they would see his handiwork. And we talked about how, we need to set up some memorials. So not just we know the things the Lord's done in our life, because we need a reminder too, but also like generations to come, that they see that the Lord's really done a work and have faith in him. So anyway, Joshua 5, now they are really preparing to go into battle. Like, the Lord has brought them to this place, and there is some preparations that need to be made. So here we go. All right, you should, Melissa, if you are interested in that, you should watch that. You should watch that one, because I think I did that one by myself too. We talked about it at length. Okay. Now, Joshua chapter 5, I'm going to read it through, and we're going to talk about the preparations they had to do to get ready for this battle, because the battle is coming. And I think there's battles coming in our lives, and maybe we need to get ready, right? This is something significant. So starting verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel until we were passed over, that their heart melted. Neither was their spirit in them any more because of the children of Israel. At that time the Lord said unto Joshua, Make these sharp knives, and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. And Joshua made him sharp knives, and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. And this is the cause why Joshua did circumcise all the people that came out of Egypt that were males. Even all the men of war died in the wilderness, by the way, after they came out of Egypt. Now, all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness, by the way, as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people that were men of war which came out of Egypt were consumed, because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord, unto whom the Lord sware that he would not show them the land which the Lord sware unto their fathers that he would give us, a land that floweth with milk and honey. And their children whom he raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised. For they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way. And it came to pass when they had done circumcising all the people, that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off of you. Wherefore the name of this place is called Gilgal unto this day. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. Okay, so that is Joshua chapter 5. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. It's a lot to read, but we're gonna talk about this. So basically, they are getting ready to go into this battle. The first thing I mentioned in this really long first verse is the fact that all of the other nations had heard. Remember, they were already scared. That we talked about in the chapter of Rahab. Rahab mentioned that the people were already scared. In fact, the king himself came looking for the spies. So the people were already terrified, because they'd heard that the people had walked over on dry ground at the Red Sea, and they had heard that they had destroyed the other kings, and they were kind of shaking in their boots. But I guess they kind of felt a little bit like there was still a river between them, and they were like, yeah, maybe we're okay over here. They're not too close. They're just a little close. But at the point that the Lord provided a miracle, and they walk over on dry ground to get to the other side, then it becomes real. Like they are knocking at their door. And it says, their heart melted. Neither was their spirit in them anymore because of the children of Israel. And I don't know if you guys have ever felt that way. There've been a few times in my life where something like really terrible has happened, and it just feels like your stomach drops out, you know? And so that's how I picture this whole, like your heart melting and there's no spirit in you anymore. That kind of feeling where something just awful happens and you know you're just powerless to do anything about it. That's that feeling. And that's where they were. And you know, what's funny is we're not there yet, but later in the chapter, when the man of God, who is an angel, meets with Joshua, Joshua asks him if the angel is for Joshua and the Israelites, or if he's for their adversaries, which would be the Gentiles, or the folks that they were going up against. And the angel says, nay, like he's not for either of them. He's for the Lord. And therefore, in a way, he's for both of them. You know what I mean? Or he's against both of them, whichever way you want to look at it. But either way, he's doing what's best, ultimately, what the Lord would have him to do. So it's not like they were like, I guess that in a way, there was still room for hope, but at the same time, there wasn't. I don't know. Rick always explains these things better than I do. But anyway, so verse 2, the Lord's like, we're getting ready. We're going into this battle. And then there's really two things that they have to do. And this is where I think it's very similar to what we have to do sometimes when we want to follow the Lord and we're going into a battle. And the first thing that I think we have to do, I'm sorry, there's like a hair that I can see and it's like bothering me. The first thing is, of course, it's got to be like a gray hair that's just sticking up and like being obvious. Anyway, the first thing that they have to do is they have to get rid of something. And in their case, they had to have this circumcision done. And this is something that the Lord specifically told them that his people had to do. We talked about it when we were going through the Torah books, and there's a lot of different reasons why we were speculating, but ultimately what it comes down to is that's what the Lord required. And I think it makes sense as a show of faith in him. And I think it makes sense as giving of your literal body and flesh and blood to the Lord. And there's a lot of other reasons why this would be necessary, but suffice it to say, the Lord said this is what he required, and so therefore they must do it. But I think that, even we, of course, I'm a lady, I wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but there are often things that are in our life that the Lord has told us maybe we should get rid of. And maybe we're letting it hang out, and it's just interfering with us having a right relationship with the Lord, and going to interfere with us being successful in any kind of work that he has for us. So even though we don't have or I don't necessarily have to do this particular thing, I certainly think it's relevant in that everybody has things in their life that probably the Lord would prefer that they would not be there. And therefore, it's something that we could probably cut out if we're getting ready to go into a battle and we don't want to be weighed down by any sin or anything that's getting in the way of our relationship with the Lord. So Joshua went at it, said he made sharp knives, and good thing. And he circumcised the children of Israel. And then it goes on to explain why he had to do it. And they basically say that all of the people that came out of Egypt, they had circumcised them. But the problem is that all the people that came out of Egypt, they hadn't obeyed God. And so the Lord had said, they're not going to go into the promised land. We're going to wait 40 years till they die off. And then their children, who are going to be born in the wilderness, I will raise up to go and see the promised land and do all of that. So those children, when they were in the wilderness, they had not been circumcised. And so that's why they had to do a whole new circumcision at this point. So all of the people who had not been circumcised, which was every male but Joshua and Caleb, those were the only ones that had already had that done. Everyone else had to be circumcised. And that was just because the Lord required it. And let's see, we're at verse 8. When they were done circumcising the people, it says they abode in their places in camp till they were whole. So, of course, they had to heal. They stayed in their camp. They were hanging out. They had to completely heal before they were going to go out and actually take care of the business of getting the promised land. But the Lord said to Joshua, this day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off of you. Of course, it says, wherefore the name of this place is called Gilgal unto this day. So the idea is that Egypt had been a reproach to them. It was part of the reason why the older generation wasn't willing to trust God. They had been in Egypt so long that they were let's see if I can think of the right word here. They were tainted, I guess, by the things that they had picked up there. And it was a problem for them. It was a reproach, he says. But at this point, the reproach was rolled off of them. And so that was because they were in a place where they were really connected with the Lord to the point they were willing to make this physical sacrifice, and they were walking in obedience with him to the point that they were getting ready to enter into the promised land. So the first thing that they had to do, like I said, was get rid of some things. Get rid of something that the Lord would prefer they not have and follow him in that way. So then you have the second thing that they had to do, which was they kept the Passover. So it says the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month, at even in the plains of Jericho. And I'm just going to stop there for a second. This is where, so see, on one hand, you might have something in your life that the Lord would have you get rid of. Maybe there's something in your life that the Lord would have you add. So the keeping of the Passover wasn't necessarily something that they had done, certainly in Egypt, because of course that wasn't happening then. But they had kept the Passover. So this is the thing that they're adding to their life, again, as a reminder of who God is and all of the things that he's done for them. So you have things that you want to get rid of, and that way you are not weighed down so heavily with your sin and all of your other burdens, right? But then you have things that you add that don't add any weight because they are not burdensome, they're light, they're from the Lord. In fact, they might give you a little extra strength and spirit when you think about the Passover and the meaning of it, how it points to Christ as our Passover lamb. That gives you a buoyant spirit. Yes, the first one was in Egypt. That's like, oh, you're right. What I was saying was before the time that they were taken out, they had no Passover. You're right. Technically, it was in Egypt. So anyway, so you have things that you want to get rid of just to make sure you're in a right relationship with the Lord. And then maybe there are some things you want to add into your life to make sure you have a right relationship with the Lord. And, I was trying to think of some examples. And, they're all small ones because I haven't had any there's some things that you might consider major. It just depends on your perspective. But I think one thing that was significant for both Rick and I when we first started following the Lord that we got rid of in our lives is we really changed the music that we listen to, which I know that seems like something, like I said, it's kind of small. But we were both listening to worldly music, and we were both listening to music that was really ungodly, but at the same time, we didn't even really recognize that it was ungodly. I remember, I don't even know if I want to mention what song it was, but we had decided that we were kind of going to fast from worldly music and just listen to Christian music for a period of 30 days or something. We just did this period of 30 days where we completely shut it off. And we weren't thinking that it was going to be a permanent change. We were just thinking that we were going to really focus on the Lord for 30 days. And one thing we were going to do was focus on the music and just completely make sure all of our entertainment, all of the shows that we watch, make sure it's something that's focused on the Lord. And that we just did that for a period of time, thinking that it was going to be temporary. So anyway, I went to take my boys toward the end of that 30 days to get a haircut. And while they were getting a haircut and we're sitting there in the waiting room of the haircut place, I don't know if Melissa's still here. She'd probably get a kick out of this story. But but we're waiting in the waiting room for the boys to get a haircut, and they have music playing, and it's a popular station that we would have listened to if it weren't for the fact that we were having this little fast situation going on. And when we were listening to it, there was a song came on, and it had a very catchy tune, but it was about a lady's private parts. And it had never struck me before. I always just thought of it as a catchy tune, but it never really struck me until that moment, the words of that song. And I think it was just because I was inundated with it all the time. It just didn't really mean anything to me. But sitting there with my little boys in the waiting room, I was trying to cover their ears. I was like, oh my word, I can't even believe that's what I was letting them listen to. So I started paying more attention to the words of the thing. And I'm like, man, I can't believe. And have you ever watched a movie or listened to a song that you listened to when you were kids or watched when you were kids, and you're like, I can't believe my parents let me watch that. Has that ever happened to anyone but me? I don't know. But all of a sudden we really started noticing the things that were in our life that we hadn't noticed before. And so we just started cutting some things out. Just cutting some things out completely getting rid of them. And but it's an ongoing process. We've been that was probably, I mean, the boys were little then, and Brian's 24. So I mean, it's been a really long time since that happened, probably almost 20 years. But the thing about that is even 20 years down the road as a Christian, even making that commitment so many years ago, after a while, things creep back in. And I think that was kind of the point here with the people of Israel. Like they were with the Lord in the wilderness, and they're, how could they be more, with the Lord? They're literally with him in the Lord, right? But at the same time, there are some things that had been allowed to slide for a little while, and then they had to get it right. And so even if you feel like you've been really close to the Lord for a while, made some decisions for him and tried to focus on him, you might need to just take a look at your life and refresh it after a while and think, is there something I've allowed to slip in that I really got to get a hold of again? And there's always things that do that. Anybody who's really tried to watch their diet for a while, just try to be healthy, you know what I mean? Not even like in the biblical sense, but just anytime you try to do something good and you're really good for a long time, every once in a while, you a little something will slip in. You get a little snacky, and then you kind of get off track. But if you're going to be successful, you have to get back on track, and that's the key, right? So when it comes to things like the Passover, that's, again, adding things that are godly into your life, just to add to your life. And this isn't necessarily some things the Lord requires of us. He asks of us that we do. But there's also some things that you could just choose to do to honor him. But regardless, you can look around your life and see the things that you want to start doing and how you can be faithful to him and his will and his way. And when you start to follow him, the Lord blesses. So like when it came to the Urban Hillbilly, he said how to eat healthy. If it tastes good, spit it out. So when it came to Passover, I mean, the Lord wanted the people to do that. And it was to remember him and to remember what he'd done for them in Egypt, how he delivered them. And it was important. They needed to remember that. And even now, we do Passover now. And I think it's something that's been beneficial to us. In fact, I was just sitting before Rick fell asleep, I was sitting on the bed because Sukkot is coming up. And Sukkot is the Feast of the Tabernacles. And I'm really excited about it because I've been to Sukkot celebrations before. We've never built our own tabernacle sort of thing at our house, which it's like a little tent frame structure. But it's really a great feast. We talked about feasts when we were in the Old Testament, and because what it points to is the return of Christ. The time that we're going to enjoy a feast with the Lord, and it's just a really special time. It's probably the most joyous of all the celebrations. But anyway, so we were talking about different ways to celebrate, and just all of the different feast days, and even keeping the Sabbath. Those are things that we added on as we walked our Christian walk. And we've found personally a lot of joy in following those things. I really see how when you have, for instance, with Sabbath, which, by the way, tonight's Sabbath, when we started doing that the Lord really blessed. There really is, you can see why he instituted it, that you have, for instance, with Sabbath, like I said, a purposeful day once a week to just turn all of the work and all of the things that you're focused on in your life off and just pause and rest and focus on him. I mean, it's really significant in its own way. It really is. So, but anyway, just adding on the things that the Lord has set aside for us is a blessing. Also, all of these things are blessings. When it comes to the following the Lord, whether you're taking something away or adding something in, it's going to be a blessing in your life if it's something that honors God. So the children of Israel, they kept the Passover. And when they kept the Passover, it says they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover. So right after that, they started eating off of the land. And it says, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day, and the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. So once they started eating off the land, the manna stopped. Which, on one hand, I'm sure that was kind of, it'd been 40 years. It'd been a long time. They'd been living off of the bread that the Lord provided miraculously on a daily basis. I mean, I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine the circumstances that was like. But the Lord stopped that, and they started eating off of the land. And on one hand, you might think to yourself, that would be sad, because you would have to worry about, making meals and all this other shit. It wasn't just like provided. But at the same time, the great blessing of it is that the Lord is going to give you the opportunity to be on land again, to actually provide for yourselves, which, anybody who's had health trouble understands that, I've had some health issues in the past few years, and there are times that I can't do anything, that Brianna's got to make meals and bring me something to eat or whatever. And it's very nice that she does that, and I appreciate it. But I always look forward to when I'm able to do those things for myself. When I'm able to get up and cook and clean my own house and do the things that I want to do, instead of just laying there and being served. And so even though it is work and it's effort, and it's not the same as the Lord just providing for it daily, I'm sure that it was a blessing to them and a refreshment to be in a place where they could grow their own food. I mean, they've been in the desert for 40 years. My son is in a desert right now. I talked to Ricky earlier. He's in California and in the desert. And he was showing me, video from around the camp that they're at right now. And it's a desert. It is a straight up desert. And I hope the Lord does a great work with him there. but there's not much going to grow there. And to get to a place to compare that, I lived in Arizona and Nevada, and places where there's straight desert, and not much grows. And to go from a place like that to a very fertile place like North Carolina, where we lived in Maryland was actually fertile too. But the whole idea is that to go from a place of dryness to a place where you can grow things has to be a great refreshment. And I know that they were very glad to be at the place where the Lord was going to allow them to have fruit of their own land. And it even says they did eat the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Like immediately it all worked out. And that's an incredible blessing. These people weren't raised growing their own food. You know what I mean? I understand that because I've had the hardest time keeping gardens, but it's worth it. And it's great when you have it, right? Yeah, I agree, Kelly. I like the green way better. It was one of the things I missed. I missed trees when I lived in the desert. I missed grass too because they had rock lawns, but the grass didn't stress me out as much as the trees. I miss the big trees. I love trees. Anyway, so the very last part talks about this angel that came. And Joshua looked up and he saw there was a man and he had a sword. And he went to him and he asked him, are you with us or are you with them? And he's like, neither. I'm the captain of God's hosts and I'm come. And Joshua, of course, fell on his face and worshiped. And he asked what the Lord wanted to tell him. And he said, take your shoes off. This is a holy place. And so Joshua did that. And, I want to give you some kind of great practical reason there, but I just really feel like the only thing I can think of is that, there are things that are holy that we need to be respectful of. And we live in a society now that treats everything very casually. I mean, there's really very little that's given any kind of respect anymore. We've just really made things so casual. Like when I was younger, it used to be in the workplace, everybody would go in, ladies would go in dressed up, men would go in dressed up. And now everything is like, it used to be casual Friday. Now it's casual every day. Everybody wants to wear jeans and t-shirts. And I understand that people want to be comfortable. I get that. And I think we want to embrace people. And I get that too. But there has to be, too, a measure where we have some special respect for things that are special to the Lord. There are things that we put aside and treat in a very particular way because it honors God, where we don't treat it as casually as we treat other things. And that's something that we just have to change our mindset about. Not another thing that I was thinking of is I taught school, and I taught 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 9th grades. And when I taught school, they called me Mrs. Beale. And now it's like Miss Nikki, Miss Bobby. And it's very like, or sometimes not even Miss, sometimes they'll just call them by their first name. And to me, that's like, but for me, it was very important. And I think it was, again, a measure of respect. People do that with their pastors too. Ricky was talking about if he became a pastor, which he is considered, but I don't think he's committed to, so don't get yourself excited about it. But he was thinking about his pastor name. And he has a very good pastor friend who just goes by his initials. They just call him by his initials. And Ricky was like, I was thinking about going by these initials. And I was like, are you sure about that, son? Ricky's a lot more casual than I am. but it's not, I think there's a measure of being respectful to the office of pastor, just like we talked a few times recently about respecting those in authority that the Lord has given us. And we talked about how when I taught school, it was when Obama was coming into office. I just said it myself. But he was, all the kids would not call him president. And I said, no, we will call him President Obama. He is the president. You will refer to him in my classroom as President Obama. And I required them to do that out of respect for his office. I said, you don't have to agree with him politically, but you do have to respect his office because the Lord gave him that office. And so, again, there's, I think, a measure of being respectful and honoring the things that the Lord gives because the Lord gave them, not because, we think we're something or we want to lift up man, but it's really about honoring God and understanding who he is. So when he says to Joshua, take your shoes off, this is a holy place, then he didn't understand that he couldn't just treat this place like he treated everything else. When something belongs to the Lord, you have to treat it with the respect that it deserves, not because whatever the place is, I'm sure it didn't look any different than anywhere else, but the Lord claimed it was holy, and therefore you had to treat it as such. So all of these things were in preparation for Joshua getting ready to go into the battle. Now, I know I'm always so much quicker than my husband, so I hope you'll forgive the short one. But if Rick was here, he would have talked at least a half hour. I probably would have gone over an hour. But Joshua, the next chapter, Joshua 6, we're actually going to talk about the walls of Jericho coming down. So when I say this is the prep work that happened, I mean, this is really the prep work that happened. They sent a spy out. They crossed the river and set up a memorial. And then they got rid of the things they needed to get rid of, which was circumcision. They did the things that they needed to do to honor the Lord, including Passover, taking the shoes off in the holy place. And when everybody had their attitudes right and focused on the Lord, they were going to go into a great battle. And guess what? The Lord is going to give them a victory. If anybody knows anything about the Bible, that that when they go into Jericho, they win. And they don't even win because they're, so mighty and powerful. The Lord gives them a miraculous victory because it's really all about their relationship with him. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, you have to say to yourself, are there battles in my life that I want to win? Are there battles that the Lord has given me to fight and the odds are kind of stressful? I don't know how this is going to work out. Lord, how am I going to do it? Well, the first thing we got to do is get our relationship with him right. Make sure that we've cleared out everything that might be interfering. We've added the things that are going to bring us closer to him. And by doing that, that will give us success when it comes to the battlefield. We've got to put our relationship with him first. So that is all that I have for tonight. Did the memorial make it holier because it was promised? I don't think so. The memorial was all about remembrance. It didn't make it holy. The place that they're at, this is just, I don't think it was the entire place that they were at. Let me think of an example. Like, for instance, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It's not the entire nation's capital that is special. You know what I mean? It is the capital, but the place that's really most important is the White House and the grounds. You know what I mean? Like there are other special things, but probably the most important is where the White House is. So I think there was only the way that it's worded to me, at least, is how I see it, is there was a particular place where the Lord said, this place is holy, not the entire where all of the children of Israel are at. It was just where Joshua was at. Does that make sense? So the memorial was a separate issue. Lightning round, well, that's me. Really, honestly, when I do this by myself, I think I talk way more than I talk when Rick is on, because he usually talks the most once he gets going. And but when I talk by myself, I definitely don't think I talk 40 minutes worth at any time. So anyway, all right, well, we've done Joshua 5, and so I'm going to go ahead and pray. And yeah, I don't have one more thing. We're going to pray, and then we'll be done for the evening. And then tomorrow we'll come in at the battle, which I'm sure Rick will be around for that, because, he loves a good battle. So, all right, well, let's pray. Lord, I know that we all have battles from time to time, and some people might be dealing with battles right now, and some of us might have battles up and coming that we don't know of. But Lord, no matter what happens, we know that you can handle whatever comes our way. And we just need to be strong and have a good courage and be focused on your word and not turn to the right hand or the left hand. But we just need to get rid of the things that would be interfering with our relationship with you. And we need to maybe add in the things that you've tried to give us that would give us a better relationship with you. And Lord, I just pray that you would bring us to a place that we are very, very close, and that we can live a life that honors you, and that you're able to use us to win battles that are big and bring you honor and glory. Lord, I pray that you bring us back together tomorrow night, and we continue in your word. And I pray you bless everyone here. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Okay, I think I got really close to the camera. Let's pray. But anyway, all right, I hope you all have a good night, plenty of rest, and come back tomorrow. And Lord willing, Rick will be here, and we will continue with Joshua 6. I'll see you next time. Bye.